All right, Jim Schultz back for part three of this time value of money series. We're gonna wrap up the time value money basics here. We're gonna pick up right where we left off. In part one, we covered why money now is more valuable than money later. In part two, we covered this middle section with the time value money variables and the time value money formula. In part three, we're gonna talk about a couple special circumstances of time value money applications with both annuities and how to handle different frequencies. And they're both pretty simple. An annuity is nothing more than some equal fixed payment over time. It is essentially this payment key that you saw in the time value of money variable section. So an example of an annuity would be a 3-year $100 annuity that you're going to receive. That means that you're receiving $100 each year for 3 years. You have a 10-year $500 annuity. You're getting $500 every year for 10 years. Now, there are two different types of annuities in finance, and we're only going to focus on one. There are ordinary annuities and annuities due. Ordinary annuities assume that the payments occur at the end of each period, whereas annuities due assume that the payments occur at the beginning of each period. For our purposes in this class, we will only cover annuities, or we will only cover ordinary annuities. I will not cover annuities due. So you don't have to worry about that. So that means whenever you see a timeline, you're going to see a lot of timelines starting in one of these next videos when I'm going over these problems. Whenever you see timelines with cash flows on them, you can assume that the payments occur at the end of each period. You can assume that those payments are happening at the end of each year, each month, each week, each whatever period frequency you're looking at. Whenever you are dealing with an annuity, typically you're either solving for how much it is worth to you today, that would be its present value, or how much it is worth to you at its end, that would be its future value. The interesting nuance that you need to understand is this. If you have just a pure annuity on your hands, which means you only have the annuity, you don't have any other lingering parts, like you don't have, like for example, a pure annuity would be a $100 3-year annuity. That's a pure annuity. An example of an impure annuity, I guess it would be a 3-year $100 annuity plus a $5,000 check at the end. You see the difference? One of them is just the annuity itself. The other one has the annuity plus some dangling part out there that complicates things. Whenever you have a pure annuity on your hands, if you're solving for the present value, the future value is 0. If you're solving for the future value, the present value is 0. If you have dangling parts out there, it becomes a little bit more complicated, and we will see examples of that later on in this class. Different frequencies, this is where things start to get ratcheted up slightly to a slightly higher level, but still definitely within everybody's capabilities. What you have to understand is that these three variables in the time value money section, I, payment, and N, they all must have the same time frequency. They all must share consistency in their time frequency. In other words, if one of them is yearly, they all have to be yearly. If one of them is monthly, they all have to be monthly. You can't put one in yearly and put one in monthly and expect to get the right answer. You're feeding the calculator or you're feeding the equation inconsistent information. Okay? Okay, so when you're looking at a problem, how do you know, like, so say for example, you have a problem where the interest rate is given to you annually, but the payments are given to you monthly. You have to make a decision, right? Do you convert everything to annual or do you convert everything to monthly? Do you guys kind of see what I'm saying here? Do you see the problem on our hands? It's a very, very, very simple answer that is always true. So make sure that you remember this. Whatever time frequency the payment is on, you cannot change that information. You must leave that information in place. You must leave it fixed. You cannot alter that information. If you alter that information, you are turning this into a different problem. So, if the problem says the payments are monthly, you have to make I and N monthly to fit that frequency. If the problem says the payments are annually, these both have to be annually. If this says weekly, they're both weekly, and so on and so forth. So keep that in mind. You will see that play out in some of the practice problems that we're going to go through. So that's the end of part 3. This 3-part series, my hope is that this kind of brings you up to speed on some time value money basics, and now you're ready to start diving into some of these practice problems.